Hey everyone, it's Leonep. Welcome back to DIY Beauty on Purpose. Today I am working on our very own media center that is in desperate need of a new look. I'm excited because for a while I've been wanting to do this and I finally get to do so. So as always, first thing is first, I just need to make sure that it's nice and clean. And I'm actually really embarrassed to show you how bad and dusty this media center is. But you know what? This is real life. This is where we're at with it. So just making sure that it's dust-free, dirt-free, grime-free. I normally like to use the crud cutter. So that's what I used for the entire thing. I did end up removing the doors as well, because it would just make it easier to paint. So I was able to remove them and then be able to clean them and paint them in my studio. I'm not going to be painting the inside of the media center, but I do want the edges to be painted. So I am taping them so that when I paint and remove them, those edges are nice and crisp and straight. So I'm starting with a stain blocking primer by Kiehl's. You do not need to prime particularly when you're using chalk paint. However, sometimes I do opt to do it, especially when I'm doing a white chalk paint, because it just prevents any staining that may come through. And I've learned that it's just better to be safe than sorry. So I just add one coat of it to the entire piece using my palm brush. You can use any brush, just the smaller brushes are easier when you're going into tighter spaces. But that's it. Just going to do one coat of this and then get started with the chalk paint. Alright, so now I'm starting to do the first coat of the chalk paint. I am using Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. And I'm using one of my favorite chalk paint brushes, the Toddler and Tatum brush. I get them on Amazon. However, recently I've noticed they don't have them anymore available. So I do have a couple in my Amazon store that are comparable. Usually what I try to look for when I am buying chalk paint brushes is that the bristles are at least 2 inches long. To me, it just makes a big difference. I feel like it leaves less brush strokes because it's just kind of smoother. But it's all by preference. I mean, I've used other ones and they do okay. I just prefer the ones that have the longer bristles. But again, this is just what I prefer. So if you want to check out my Amazon store down below, I do have it linked with my favorite tools, supplies, and other items. And also, while I'm at it, I do want to remind you that I have a very new blog that I started, DIYbeautyonpurpose.com, where I'm going to be sharing exclusive content and DIYs. So if you have not checked it out, again, it's very new, but I'd love for you to check it out. So again, just continuing to do my first coat there on the doors. The handles I'm going to reuse. They're beautiful and perfectly fine. I just don't want them to have the nickel look, so I'm going to spray paint them using Rust-Oleum black paint in a matte finish. I did end up spraying them with a semi-gloss protective coat over it, so it did end up getting like a semi-gloss look, but it was very light. I just wanted them to have protection. All right, so on to distressing. I want my media center to have a little bit of distress, but not too much. So I'm using a 120 grit sandpaper to distress just the edges, as you can see here. I'm just going to focus on the edges. I'm not going to sand anything else. And I am using a 120 grit so that, I don't know, it's just quicker. I wouldn't go any higher than that, in my opinion, just because you may just scratch up a lot more of the wood. But other than that, you can use pretty much any one. Just, I would recommend 220 or 120. So again, I'm just going to focus on the edges of the doors as well as the center itself. I'm going to do it really slow here so you can see what I'm talking about when I say just on the edges. Now you can go heavier if you'd like to have it heavier distress. I don't mind heavier distress on some pieces. This particular piece, I'd like it to just have a little bit of distress only. All right, so I dusted everything, making sure that there's no sanding dust anywhere. And now I'm just sealing everything with a top coat by Varathane. It's a polyurethane in the crystal clear. And I am using an application, a sponge applicator. I have these on my Amazon store as well. They come in like these like circle big sponges. I tried it. I started using the whole thing, like the whole sponge, and it was just way too big and too stiff, and it just was not meant, like you couldn't handle it very well. So I cut a piece off of it. This is probably about a third or a fourth of the actual whole sponge, and I loved it. I thought it's just so much easier to apply. You can get in the corners a lot easier. So basically you can use a brush to apply the top coat, and I have used them. I use it all the time, but I've been using more and more the sponge because it just gives you a thinner layer of the top coat and less brush strokes. But you still have to make sure there are no little bubbles, because sometimes it does leave a few bubbles because it's a sponge. But other than that, I gave everything 3 coats, but on the top of the center I gave it 5 coats to make sure that it was nice and durable, because that's the part that's going to get a lot more use. So I am pretty much done. I am now removing the tape. After I do that, I'm going to replace the doors back on the center and then put the hardware back on, and I'll be done. Alright guys, so here's what the media center looked like before, and here's what it looks like now. I am so excited. I have been wanting to do this for such a long time. I finally got to it, and I'm so happy. I really am. It changed the whole living room, and it just feels airy and new and bright, and I love it. All right, guys, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And if you have not subscribed, as always, I ask you to consider doing so. And I hope you have a blessed day.